welcome, you beautiful pieces of elegant Street Fighter viewers, players, commentators sometimes watch too. I appreciate everybody coming through. Welcome. This is our first Mastery Monday for Street Fighter 6. I'm excited. Today we are going to be going over the concept of the rock paper scissors of Street Fighter 6. What is that? What exactly is that? Well, there's always been like a rock paper scissors dynamic that's existed in every Street Fighter game, and you're gonna see there's commonalities within this game, but there's gonna be like these little like branching off, right? These like unique aspects to each of these fundamental pieces of the rock paper scissors of Street Fighter. So we're gonna add like, you know, our little Street Fighter 6 nuance to it, because obviously we want to pay attention to the things that exist within the engine, because that's going to affect a lot of our decisions and the perceived threats, rewards that can potentially be leveraged, etc. Okay, so let's get on it over into it. We're gonna boogie on over. Okay, all right, so let's begin. Let us begin. What is the rock paper scissors of Street Fighter? Well, allow me to tell you. Okay, so it comes down to three very simple elements. Okay, it's three simple elements. It is literally this: buttons, moving forward, punishing. Okay, that's it. Just put that in your brain. Buttons, walk forward, moving forward, whatever. We'll put walk forward. Buttons, walk, punish. Okay, buttons, walk, punish. Buttons, walk, punish. Okay, all right, so what does that look like in the game? Let's talk about it. Let's get some visuals. So for buttons, obviously, right, you have your lights. Okay, you have your mediums, you have your heavies. Okay, now if you've never thought about, well, why would you choose to use one button over another, like a style of button? Well, it depends on what it is that's happening on the screen. So whenever you play Street Fighter, think of it like a conversation, right? Your opponent is telling you things through the things that they're doing on the screen. It's a conversation. What type of person are they? Do they seem like a person that's listening to you, or do they seem like a person that's just blabbing their mouth, right? If they're a person that's just blabbing their mouth, then you can probably take advantage of that, okay? Because they're probably playing selfishly. So this conversation, you notice it's very like, it's like a one-way street, okay? So those type of players, you just figure them out, and they don't really care about what you're doing, and you can just punish them over and over again, and they probably will know something's wrong intuitively, but more likely than not, they might not be able to adjust to it, okay? Or even if they do adjust to it, they're not great at the adjustment. That's something that you got to think of as a fighting game player, is even if somebody does seem to show you that they can stop something, make sure it wasn't an accident, or make sure that it's something that they consistently want to do in the first place. Okay, exactly, Toxic, right? So if somebody is like, you notice that their anti-airs have been a little bit wonky and they got you with it one time, play the probability game, you know, because it's the same probability game that tells you I shouldn't try to pressure this guy because he has super and I have a massive life lead. It makes no sense for me to pressure him, right? On wake up, I should just maybe just wait for a second before I decide to do anything. Right? It's probability. It's all a percentage game. With the whole buttons, walk forward, punish thing, right? You see that I have like these little green arrows, okay? Yo, okay, thank you for the 19 months, bro. So as you can see, I have these green arrows which indicate what element beats what, right? So this is the rock, paper, scissors, okay? So essentially, if buttons beat walk forward, right? So that would be the equivalent of rock beating scissors, okay? Right? And then scissors beating paper, paper beating rock, okay? So buttons beating walk forward beats punish, and punish beats buttons, okay? So we're gonna start with buttons, and we'll go into two distinct categories of this, right? So you have your normals, unique attacks, normals. You can kind of clump them up into one place, right? And then you have special attacks, okay? Right, so those special attacks can be fireballs, right? They can be fast horizontal like attacks, like a, you know, in Street Fighter 5 you had dash punch. In this game it can be Lily's Condor Spire. Let's talk about buttons. So with light attacks, why would you want to do light attacks? Okay, well, light attacks check quicker movement, okay? Quicker movement, and it also leaves you enough room to anti-air. All right, so let's say if you guys have seen my video on keeping it stupid simple, okay, or keep it simple stupid, let's record a situation. We're gonna have two recordings up here, okay? So with fighting games, you guys have heard of the term the mental stack, right? Where it's like you can only really focus on 3 to 4 things at a time, right? Before you start to get like diminishing returns. Like it starts to take away from your ability to perform the necessary action to optimize or to guarantee a punish, right? Because you're mentally spread thin. You're trying to look for too much. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to try to cover as many opportunities as possible with one option, because it lessens the mental stack. So everybody talks about, oh, how do you strengthen, or how do you mental stack your opponent? Okay, but nobody really wants to talk about how do I lessen the mental stack for me. What you want to do is you want to capitalize on multiple opportunities with one option. Okay, so this is a throwback to Keep It Simple Stupid. All right, that's a Kiss video. If you guys never seen it, it's on my YouTube channel. It's a short video, but if you guys want, you can check it out after this. Okay, but ideally what it is I'm gonna record two situations. Okay, jab, boom. Okay, and then now I'm gonna replay this same exact spacing. I'm gonna do a second recording. Okay, so I use trading mode too, right? You want to recreate situations. So the second thing I'm gonna do, right, is I'm gonna do the same starter where I did jab, jab, right? And then now I'm gonna do the same thing, jab, jab, boom. Okay, I'm gonna turn both of these on. All right, both of these are turned on. We're gonna have it on repeat. All right, so I don't know what's going to come out. Okay, I don't know what's about to come out. I'm gonna keep reloading it, and it's gonna be a different option. Should be a different option every time. Oh, actually, I gotta reset it. Hold on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna replay it. I'm not gonna save it. This is my way around it. What up, go? So I'm gonna replay it, and it's gonna choose one of these two things. It's either gonna do that, or it's going to dash eventually. Okay, like that. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to cover both of these options. How would I do that? Well, this is where light attacks and medium attacks with very quick recovery, a decent amount of active frames. It's a pretty good combination you want to have when you want to do this tactic. Okay, so this is how you cover both vectors of space. Okay, so I'm gonna let me pull out Epic Pen really quick. If I know that this character or this player in particular likes to cover two distances, right? It's either going to be from here and then they go here and attack from the sky, or they're going to just come across, right? So I need to do something that allows me to cover both of these things, right? So what you do is you do buffers. Okay, so you could do a buffer into a special. So let's say if I do crouching strong into tattoo, right, has a pretty good amount of total frame animation. The lower it is, the better, because that means you recover quicker, right? So instead of me doing like a heavy, which is 32 frames, jumps are typically 43 frames from ground to air back to ground, right? So we'll shave off like 15, I'll say like 18 frames. I'll shave off like 18 frames, right? So we'll say that's 25, right? So we want to do something that's like around 25 frames or less, and that's typically what I like to hover around. So that way I can cover the ground, the horizontal movement across the ground, but then I can also snatch them out of the air. Okay, really good if you have a DP, something with invincibility to aerial attacks. Okay, if you have this is perfect. This is how you can lessen the mental burden, okay, of your opponent. So let's say I reload this. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna do like crouching strong into tattoo. Okay, but if he jumps, what I do is I DP. Okay, so I don't look at the ground. I'm only looking at the air, right? And then if he jumps, I just confirm during my buffer and I say, oh, you jumped. Okay, this is very simple, because you want to make sure you're in range, of course, right? So that way you can actually catch them. All right, so you see how I was using a button like crouching strong. Well, maybe crouching strong is not ideal here. Maybe I should use something a little bit faster, like crouching medium kick. Crouching medium kick is actually not bad here because it's a crouching button. So if you guys don't know, if you're crouching, right, if you are crouching, you are closer to the ground, obviously. So that means that aerial attacks will take longer to actually hit you. So where this would make contact with the jump right around this point, right? Around this point. If you're crouching, let's say Ryu is crouching. I'm going to set him to crouch. Let's see, crouch. So now let's say this is his crouching. Okay, so now this amount of time between standing and crouching, it's going to take a lot longer for them to hit you. So you can actually kind of take away some frames on that limitation of like that 25 frame sweet spot that we talked about, and you can be a little bit more lenient because it's gonna actually take him a little bit longer to reach you because you're lowered, right? What up, Holmes? Yeah, because you have a lowered hurt box. Okay, so you could play around with this. These aren't like concrete rules. There are ways to kind of bend and stretch them a little bit. This is one of those ways. All right, so now I say, okay, well, I'm clearly not in range of crouching strong if you were to dash from here. So I have two options. Either I can move closer, right? So I can cover the dash range, right? Or I can just use a longer button. Typically one that's like, you know, also crouching, okay? So let's start right here. Let's say, boom, okay? And I'll do it again. Okay, and do it again. Ooh. There you go. And it's nothing to do. And you see now I don't really have to think. Now imagine how many people play like this, where they just take to the sky or they just go across the ground like this, right? Aimlessly. They just do it because they just see red. They just want damage. They want to land the combo that they seen on YouTube. Okay, so a lot of people are doing this. If you go on YouTube, first thing you'll see for Street Fighter are what? Combo videos. And combo videos usually start with what? Jump and attack. So a lot of people that are learning this game, right? A lot of people that are learning this game, this is what they do. Okay? They are just jumping or they're dashing because that's what they see in combo videos. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Alive? So this is how you can take advantage of that. And you simplify the game like this. Now, when the game becomes more complex is when you notice, oh, wait a minute. He's not committing to these big laggy ass moves. He's playing in increments. What does that look like? Well, you'll start to see this, right? That's when the game changes. That's a completely different conversation. But what I'm showing you, this is how you would just neutralize people that are just aimless and just running a game that they don't really truly understand on ranked. Okay, it's a very simple way to just blow by people in ranked. I'm not even joking. I could probably get to diamond just playing like this. Okay, but of course you have to add a little bit of like nuance because of the engine of the game. This is not Street Fighter 5. There's a little bit more flavor in the things that you can do in the game, so it's not as cut and dry. Okay, so that's where we'll go into some other stuff in a little bit. But all right, so this is why you don't want to use light attacks. Okay, this is there's not much commitment. All right, not much commitment, and it leaves you time to be able to move, to do something else, to act again. Okay, and mediums are kind of another form of that. Not as much freedom per se, but they cover more ground. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to be as precise with your spacing. I don't have to be this close to stop the dash. I could be a little bit further. You see what I'm saying? Because if he were to dash, I can actually reach. Whereas, you know, if this isn't gonna reach him where I was. You see what I'm saying? So that's where you would just kind of want to make like little adjustments. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so now let's go back into it. All right, so mediums are active enough to wall off forward progression. They're far enough to reach to make contact over lights, right? They have enough of that reach that we just talked about. And they're cancelable into knockdown opportunities. So, you know, light attacks can cancel, of course, into knockdown opportunities, but typically they don't have enough, like, you know, hit stun to get, like, the beefier stuff, right? So, for example, if Ken were to dash at me, that doesn't combo, right? Whereas if you were to do it here, this combos. Okay, so you get more reward off of hitting those mediums and those heavies because they have more hit stun. Okay, so lights are still really powerful though. Do not overlook them just because they don't do a lot of damage, because they're kind of stubby, right? Because they don't give you those combos that you want, doesn't mean that you should ignore them. Okay, because they're important. All of these little pieces, they're like moving parts in a machine, and when they come together, you know, then you start to see like, oh, this is how the mechanisms work, right? And then the game will start to make more sense. Okay, all right, so for heavies have the most reach. They're usually the most active. Okay, so that means that they stay out the longest. All right, so remember what we talked about with Cheese the other day when we were talking about frames, right? Active frames are how long a move can stay out. How long can I hit you for, basically? Like, you can run into it, right? You can just walk right into it. So heavies are usually the ones that have the most active frames. Okay, so they're really good for stopping forward movement, because sometimes what will happen is you'll jab and then they just so happen to dash when your jab is going through recovery. Okay, and then you're like, shit, you're like, oh fuck, and then you get hit low, right? That can be frustrating. So if you were to switch to something that has more active frames, like for example, Stand Fierce has 5 active frames versus the 3 in Stand Jab. So this stays out for much longer. So Ken can actually, he can like run into it like that. Okay. Whereas if I had done jab, it would have whiffed because it's not active enough, and it would have started the recovery phase by the time he even got into the range. Okay. So that's why you have to be careful with using attacks that are too quick. Okay. All right, so they're most damaging, but the thing is that they have slower recovery. Okay, so these are more committal. So if I were to go back and show you, right, the kiss strategy, and you know, this will cover this pretty well, right? This is pretty good, but look, I got punish counter, so that means I can't even DP this. Okay, so I can cover this. Oops, wrong one. But I can't DP it. See, I got hit. So you have to be very, very mindful of that against certain characters. You want to fine tune these things. So what I'm showing you is like the foundation of a house, right? But what if you want a certain style of house, or maybe the ground isn't that great for a particular house, right? AKA the matchups. That's where you start to make small adjustments. You know what I'm saying? You know, so you got to keep that in mind. Like, how do I adjust this foundation against certain characters? You might want to favor one style over another. Okay, you might want to favor buttons over specials over buttons, maybe more lights over, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. Buttons are really good, okay, just for stopping this forward movement. Okay, so the styles of forward movement, you know, you got walking, right? You have dashing. Okay, you know what I'm saying. Some characters have, you know, command movement like that. Okay, so you can put this all in the same box, and you know what's dope when you do that? You simplify the game. You know why? Because you don't treat these things as different, you know. So imagine if you treated walk and dash and run as 3 different things. You see how you mentally stack against yourself? But instead, when you treat them as one thing, you're just like, oh, he's moving, and then you simplify. It doesn't matter what he does, you just know that this player is always moving. He mixes it up, but he's still moving. So then you just go bam. You see what I'm saying? Of course, there's going to be, again, nuance, because when you walk forward, you can cancel at any time, right? So somebody can just walk forward and parry. But that's another thing. That's like a completely different level we're not even talking about, right? So let's go to walking forward. Okay, so walking forward, it's any sort of like movement, right? Hard, like closing the gap. Okay, there's variance in it because you can introduce, like, you know, walking backwards, like, you know, movement that evades instead of engaging. So if you guys have been around, you guys know I like talking about engaging, right? Engage movement is movement that puts you forward versus evasive movement, which pushes you backwards, right? So think of it like real estate. Okay, if I am trying to close the distance, I am trying to lessen the space between us, I move forward. If I'm trying to give up space, I'm trying to create you know, more room between us, I'm going to be more evasive, right? So you have within these movements, you have walk forward, walk back, dash forward, dash back, jump forward, jump back, right? So from walking to jumping, it gets progressively more risky to do it. Why? Because when you walk, at any point you can cancel. Okay, you can cancel this into block, into button, into special, into fireball, into parry, drive impact, right? You have freedom. So anytime you see something on the screen and you can interpret it fast enough, you can possibly do something about it, right? So that's why walking is so powerful. That's why I always encourage you guys, start off with walking forward, because most of you guys are not comfortable doing it. You guys are not comfortable doing it because when you do it, this is what you do. You do it like in boxes. You like right? So like, well, if you were to like draw the rhythm of it, it would look like this. Like some of you people, like, you guys are like right? Whereas if you see somebody that's comfortable like me, I'll go like this. Ooh, and then stop. Ooh, stop. Chill. Okay, right? So like there's like a lot of flavor, right? Instead of looking like this, I'm like, see, like that's so hard to read because you don't know at what point am I gonna do something, right? So if you guys have problems in like footsies, something as simple as changing the rhythm of your walking can make a world of a difference, which sounds crazy, but you gotta remember timing is huge in fighting games, and sometimes a lot of shit happens by accident. That's what you have to like That's why it's not worth getting upset sometimes over shit, because a lot of shit can just happen by pure coincidence, you know, literally. Like the person didn't even know it was gonna work, but they just so happened to do it, right? So something that you have to keep in mind, just to alleviate yourself of any like mental burdens, you know. If I am to move forward, typically it's because I want to get into a range to strengthen something about my character or to weaken something about the opposing character. Okay, so both of those things can coexist though. I can get stronger while simultaneously making my opponent weaker. How is that? Depends on what my opponent's doing. So let's say I'm playing Ken, and this Ken player likes to do for example, max distance sweep, right? And he's just, and I'm like, shit, I can't do anything about this, right? I'm not in range. So how would I weaken this? Well, I would just move forward, right? And moving forward will simultaneously make me in range of my things and also remove sweep from the equation. Okay, so then I say, yo, this dude's hitting me with sweeps a lot and I'm not really punishing it. Okay, so let me just put myself in a range where I can punish it. Something as simple as this, and then boom, right? Yeah, I could do something about it. Okay, so then you can combine these elements to kind of fix a lot of problems that can happen in real time. Engaging would help you with that. Engaging will put you in position to optimize. So if I'm whiff punishing, you know, let's say I whiff punish right here with sweep, right? Cool. Not really much damage though, right? 108 damage. Okay, cool. I can get a setup. All right, cool. But what if I block it? Now if I block it, right? Whoa, way more damage, right? This is just an example. Obviously, I'm not trying to show you like, but it's just to show you like the idea of how much more freedom you have to punish somebody because you're closer. So this is why you'd want to move closer against people, is because you want to position yourself to take advantage of a certain behavior of theirs that you're aware of, right? Or a certain aspect of their character's design that they are now weak against, right? You're like, okay, now they're weak at this particular range because they can't abuse this tool anymore. See what I'm saying? That's why you'd want to move forward. And now inversely, you'd want to evade sometimes because it'll reduce the strength of their character. Then now they're not in range of their moves, or now they're not in range to punish something that you can do, right? Or now they feel like they have to take a massive risk to close the gap, or maybe now you're punishing them on transitions. You see what I'm saying? So it's a matter of a question. Guys, simplify everything I say to learning how to ask questions. Okay, the whole idea of Street Fighter again is a conversation, so you got to learn how to ask questions. If you're not asking questions, you're just blabbing your mouth. You're just blabbing your mouth. All right, if you're on a date and you're with your partner or this person that you met for the first time, you're super interested in, and you just keep blabbing your mouth, you're not gonna understand, or you're not gonna interpret anything that this person is giving you, any of this information about themselves, any of the things that they're revealing. You're just blabbing your fucking mouth. You know what I'm saying? You're just like, you're Louis down to the socks, but your game is like Kmart bags, bro. Your shit is flimsy. So you gotta just shut the fuck up sometimes, and you gotta pay attention. That's how you get better, right? Now let's go into some more nuance, right? So as you guys can see, I kind of added like this little, like, you know, drive rush, right? Because this is something that's unique to Street Fighter 6. Where does drive rush fit in here? Well, think of it like this. Well, as we know, walking forward beats punishes. Okay, so punish behavior is, you know, when people are looking for stuff and they kind of chill, right? They're passive. Okay, even if it's for brief moments, they're looking for something in particular. You don't know what it is, but it's up to you to either figure out, right? It's up to you to figure out what's their intention, or to force them away from that intention. You understand? You don't have to fight somebody in their realm to beat them. You could just take them out of that shit. You fucking yank them by the fucking neck like Debo did to Red, right? And he took his fucking chain. You could just do that. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to beat somebody at their game to beat them. You understand? You gotta realize that ego will trip you into doing that shit. Because I used to do that shit. That shit is not good. It's not sustainable to try to beat somebody in their game. It does not make sense. This person has played 10,000 games playing the way they've played. I've only played that way the 10 matches I've played this one person in bracket. What the numbers don't even make sense, right? If I'm an offensive lineman, why am I trying to try out for quarterback position? That doesn't make any sense, right? So you got to be really mindful of that. Okay. So drive rush is like a form of a movement that would punish passivity. So when somebody's looking, pretend Ken is looking, right? There's different ways of looking for stuff. Some people look for stuff by crouching. This is the most universal sign, okay, guys? If you see somebody sitting there crouching, ass touching grass, all right, and you know that they're not in the gym squatting to get their gluteus maximus up, then this is suspicious. Why is this person doing this? If I see this, I know they are up to no good, okay? This is one of the tells if they are doing this. Another way is if they do this. Or another thing is if they do this, okay? Or if they do this. Or if they do this, okay? Those are the most obvious universal tells of people looking for things. You understand? You have to be able to see this. Otherwise, you're going to fall flat into the mousetrap. You're going to think there's cheese, and that shit is not cheese. It is toxic. You're going to run right into a 400 damage combo because this person has level 3 and full bars, and you weren't paying attention. Okay? So you got to be very, very mindful of that. So drive rush, moving forward, walking forward, dashing, those are ways of kind of punishing people. How do you punish them? When you punish people, guys, you don't really punish people only from doing damage. You punish people by changing the likelihood of success for that person too. You understand what I'm saying? Right? That's how it's kind of like, you know, the system's rigged, right? Hey, this is rigged for a certain group of people to capitalize and win. So why is that? Because they're positioned closer to success, right? So it's in fighting games, it's a war. It's the same thing. It is, yo, I need to put him in a position where he is less likely to succeed. What does that mean? Well, it depends on the opponent. If I have Dalsum on the screen versus Zangief, right? These two are next to, okay, round 1 fight. Who's winning right now? Okay, Sim is exactly where he wants to be, right? Why is that? Can you tell me why is that? Why is Zangief not where he wants to be? And why is Sim where he wants to be? Tool sets. The tools will tell you the story of the character. Look at Sim. All of his buttons are hitting you, and he can convert, right? And he can do so much damage, right? Off of these random stray hits, right? Just random stray hits, he can just do that. Geef has to be here. So we know based off of that, yo, Sim is winning. If Zangief wants to change his probability of success, he has to get closer. If Zangief fights here the rest of the round, he is going to lose. 100%. He's gonna lose. He has to get close. He's not gonna win from far away. That doesn't make sense, right? He might win some battles, some interactions here and there, but he's gonna lose more often than not trying to get in. You see, that's why a character like him he's a roulette. He just tries to roulette his way in, and once he gets in, he goes ham, right? Sim's trying to keep him out. So knowing this, we say, okay, well, Sim wants to maintain the position. Zangief wants to change the position. So depending on whoever you're playing, you now know what your focus is. So now if you're aware of Zangief's focus, you're not going to be as surprised when he's trying to close the gap in certain weird ways, because you know he has to do it. But you see, now you can simplify your approach. You know he has to get in. You know your buttons are going to give him a hard time. Now you know he wants to punish your buttons to get in, because that's the rock, paper, scissors, right? I'm going to do this because this is going to give him a hard time. He's going to try to punish this, but how is he going to punish it? That's where you start to see this stuff, right? And then you start to see this, right? And then now you can pinpoint where in their strategy they start to do those things. And that's when you start to change it up. And you can stay ahead of the person in terms of the strategic development of the match. So for Drive Rush is like a unique way of capitalizing on passivity, okay? It's really fast, okay? And you have advantages on block. So typically the offense in this game, you're negative on most of your normals. Very few characters have plus normals, okay? And the way you'd want to frame trap somebody largely revolves around chaining lights, okay? And interrupting them, trying to like interrupt you, right? Essentially. Or them trying to take their turn back, okay? So Drive Rush is a unique way of doing this. So you have two ways of doing this. So you have raw Drive Rush, okay? Which you prefer if you can do it, because it's only one drive gauge, right? You're only using up 1 bar drive gauge, as opposed to when you do a Drive Rush cancel, you're now using all 3 of these. Okay, so here's a comparison. This versus this, okay? Now, sometimes though, it's okay to go for it. Like, let's say if you have a massive life lead, right? Or if you get a whiff punish, right? But to throw this out aimlessly, like if they are blocking, I wouldn't really want to do it unless there's like a specific reason, like they're near burnout and I can burn them out, or they're near, you know, throw for death range or a light attack death range, something like that, right? Something I can like end the round or put them in a really bad situation off of it. I wouldn't mind it, okay? Or if I, but that's like on block. With punishing into it, totally fine, because you get your damage, you get your Oki, and you can build the meter back, you know, over the course of the interaction. So let's say if I like, you know, whiff punished, right? Oop. If I whiff punish him, okay, and then maybe I could just like, you know, get it back over the course of the next situation, right? I don't mind that. Then that's not a bad place to do it. If I want the corner carry, right? So let's say, you know, I just whiff punished, right? Okay, now he's like towards the corner. Cool, right? Not bad. It's pretty good. The thing is though, it's very expensive to do it, okay? And I want to invest my money. I want to be wise about this. I don't want to just throw this money into some random company and then all of a sudden they fall apart, they sink, and then all of my hard-earned money that I invested into this company over years is now thrown to the wayside because of my lack of proper analysis and research, right? So it's the same thing with this. I want to invest my 1 bar. It just makes more sense to do this. So the thing is though, I need to make sure that they are in a state where I can take advantage of them, not pressing, okay? Because remember, this is movement. Dashing is a form of movement. So if this person is pressing a lot of buttons, right, I'm going to get bodied. See, I'm gonna get bodied. Okay, I mean, I might be able to get like a random hit sometimes, but it's not likely. See, they're more often than not going to be favored to win that interaction. Okay, from further away it can be a little tricky because you can obviously mix up your timings and you have more freedom to throw them off. Okay, but ideally, let's say in footsies, you want to make sure that they are in that mode of looking for something in particular. Like if you know they were looking for a whiff punish, perfect time to do this, because they're not gonna be ready for this. They're looking for a specific normal, and you can throw that in there. What you can also do is, if you know somebody's looking, right, is you can throw a fireball, and then you can dash behind it, because now they're gonna be looking for fireball and trying to punish the fireball that never comes. See? So you can just mix it up like that. Okay, so that's how you would take advantage of somebody that's in that like punish mindset. Okay, now let's go for punishes. Let's look at punishes. So punishes beat buttons. Okay, so what type of punishes do we have? We have footsies buffers. Okay, so what does that look like? So a footsie buffer would be, you know, something like this, where you know they're about to press something, but it's a button that you might be having a hard time punishing, or it's so fast, right? It's just so fast that you're like, I can't really like reliably counter it, but I do want to stop it in case he does it. Okay, so let's say something like this. See, that's what a buffer is. I didn't react to it, I just put it out there. Okay, so like this, boom, right? So you can be preemptive like that. That's like a wish punish. So that's something you just buffer, you put it out there in the event that you notice this player is doing a lot of light buffers or buffers into buttons that are like, you see are kind of tricky to stop. That's when you would take advantage with that. Okay, that's what you would do. All right, so now other forms of punishing. So we have whiff punishing, which is reactive. So let's say if you know, Ken is, you know, trying to hit me with something like this, I wait for the button, I look for the animation, right, and I whiff punish it. Okay, boom. All right, so he's being reactive. Okay, when I am being reactive by looking for this specific thing. Okay, other things you can do, air to ground footsies, which is where jumping comes into play. So let's say Ken is doing stand roundhouse. It's really strong button. Okay, it's kind of annoying to whiff punish it, right? You can whiff punish it, but sometimes the reach is just so far, you're like, damn, how the hell do I stop this shit, right? So what you could do is you could do jumping. right? You can neutral jump it. You don't have to jump in all the time, right? You can if you have a good read, right? You could do something like that. Boom, right? That's not optimal because I didn't do the walk, the micro walk, but whatever. But you can do that. You can punish that. Something like that that's super abusable, you can use air to ground footsies, and now they have to consider jumping as an option. That might make them hesitate, and now you're mentally stacking them, right? So the whole point of the rock paper scissors is you want to mentally stack them because it makes them more uncomfortable, and the more uncomfortable they are, the more that they're thinking, the less natural the game is, the less they play away from their strengths, the more likely they play to their weaknesses. Okay, so now what's another thing? We have perfect parry, regular parry. Okay, so if we know this player is doing stuff, yo, Wiggles, thank you for the gift of sub, bro. I appreciate you. So let's talk about parries. So let's say we have perfect parry, we have regular parry, right? Both are very useful. You don't only have to perfect parry stuff, okay? Regular parry splits the pushback evenly across both players. So instead of, like, let's say sometimes one player gets pushed back a lot, if you regular parry, it'll like distribute it evenly, so it'll change the spacing, right? In a weird way, especially if you're like cornered. So there's certain instances where you could do stuff and then moves will now all of a sudden be like in range to punish, which is very interesting. So like a character that I think of immediately is Jury. So let me show you Jury, right? So right, let's say we have her doing this, right? I can't really do anything about this. She's -4, she's clearly far away from me, right? Nothing I can do. Okay, but if I parry the button, see, she's now whiffing this, okay? And why this is strong is because if I walk back, right, she could hit me with a low forward. So I don't really want to walk back and be standing, right? Because I'm gonna get hit with a low forward. Technically, I would want to, hey, I'm gonna crouch block this and then stand up, but I'm still in range, right? So this doesn't work. What you do is you regular parry, and now look, she's -20. I can do solar plexus. Right? That's pretty sick, right? Look at that. Okay. So parry is pretty cool because it can change a lot of like weird little interactions like that, where people were usually safe, and then now all of a sudden you've exploited a hole in their sequencing. Okay, so you can do regular parry. Regular parry is really strong. It's powerful. Okay, so you have that. Obviously you can perfect parry it, right? So it's like, yeah, why not just perfect parry it, right? Get perfect parry, and then, you know, so the least amount of advantage you'll ever have perfect parrying, I think, is 9 frames. So a lot of characters have like heavy attacks that are 9 frames, like sweeps and stuff. So let's say if I had, you know, Jury to jab like that. Yep, see, I'm +9, so I can literally just sweep her like this. And she gets punish countered, and then now you can get like a crazy setup or whatever, right? Stuff like that. Okay. So perfect parry is, of course, it's exceptional, but the thing is, there's a lot of scaling. But don't be afraid of using it, because sometimes you can graduate to better positions off of simply landing one, right? Or you can set up, you know, maybe like some character might have, like, for example, Jamie. If Jamie perfect parries, right, he has a really strong punish, not damage wise, but you'll see what I'm talking about when I show you. So let's say, let me see. So like, you know, traditionally, right, and then he gets a drink. But maybe in other instances, let's say Jury does, I don't know, something like this, right? I'm plus 21, so I can do something like this, and I can get 2 drinks. I can safely get 2 drinks. I didn't do a lot of damage, but I basically got 2 drinks, which is phenomenal, right? That's extremely powerful for a character like it. So he is now 2 drinks away from being the best character in the game. What? I'll take that any day of the week. Okay, so you gotta think of it like that. Punishing things, you don't only look at it for damage, you gotta look at it for opportunity also, which is why perfect parry is so powerful. I know it does a lot of scaling. People are like, oh, it needs to get buffed. Nah, shit is actually good the way it is. It does not need to get changed at all, in my opinion. Okay, I don't think this game really needs much changing. I think the engine is beautiful the way it is. Okay, if they do change anything, they'll probably change like what is it, they'll probably do something with drive rush. I hope they don't change like the meter you know, values of it, because I like the combos in the game. Like if they ruin that, then they're gonna ruin the combos, you know. So okay, so now next thing, so drive impact. Okay, so now this is important. Drive impact is very powerful. This is why a lot of people hate it, right? This is why I love it. I love drive impact, even though I'm not the greatest at stopping it yet. It's because I haven't really trained against it, because I've prioritized other things. But I actually love this mechanic because it forces people to not autopilot. Okay, so what this would do is, it is another form of punishing, but instead of it being a reactive punish like the other things that we just showed, it is a preemptive punish, right? Because what you're doing is you're punishing people for going into situations that they do mindlessly. Okay, so what would be an example of that? Let's say if oh, this is a perfect example actually, right? Let's say for some reason every time I just see jury neutral jump, I just want to go do this, right? And I get hit. That's my fault, right? It is my fault because I did this mindlessly. I was gonna just do this because this is a situation like, what's the worst that can happen, right? That's literally what we think. What's the worst that can happen? Who gives a shit, right? And drive impact is that repercussion, like, oh shit, that is the worst that can happen. I have to be mindful of that. Okay, so anytime you see a situation where somebody's doing something that's very like powerful and abusive, usually the strongest tools, the strongest buttons are not cancelable in terms of if they have a combination of speed, range, active frames, right? They're not usually cancelable. Okay, there are really good buttons that are cancelable, don't get me wrong, like this, right? But this is a slower button, it's 15 frames. Okay, so it doesn't have like the speed, right? This button right here, slower button, not cancelable though. This is what in my opinion, this is my favorite Jamie button. I've been doing this since beta 1. Okay, I thought this button was a godsend. Everybody's like, oh, why are you using that? You should use this. You use this, damn, you use this, right? Fuck them, now they're all using it, right? So another thing you could do is like, I don't know, what's another button of Jamie's that's really godlike? Well, a lot of his buttons are actually cancelable, so even this is cancelable on the first 2 hits though. But yeah, this is cancelable, this is cancelable, this is technically cancelable, but not fast enough to blow up a DI. Okay, right? Unless I do it like that, which is like, you have to be super lucky basically. See, like this isn't reliable, right? So you don't really want to rely on this. See, and sometimes a hit will miss, so I hit twice. The second hit of sweep missed for some reason. Not reliable, but it's a good way to check people and make people really like think about what they're doing. They can't just like do shit and be mindless about it. That's why I like it. I actually like that shit, because it makes everybody a threat in situations, right, where people are like, think that shit is sweet. Okay, that's why I personally like it. So I think that the engine is great as is, and if you pay attention to those things that we just talked about, the game won't be as intimidating. I think it's intimidating to a lot of people because people don't really know where to put the pieces of neutral. Okay, so the Street Fighter still exists. It's still very much Street Fighter based. It's just that you have to take into account the engine, because the engine is what's going to define a lot of the interactions that you experience in the game. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so with that being said, you guys let me know how'd you feel. You know, my YouTubers, like, comment below on the video, and you know, pass it on to somebody that you think needs to level up their game. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate everybody that came through.